As a transplanted Texan, I see Juneteenth from a much larger perspective. In addition to the focus on emancipation, Juneteenth also links the struggle for freedom to the gallant sacrifices of African American troops and the critical role they played in winning the Civil War. The spirit of emancipation led to the era of Reconstruction and unprecedented progress for African Americans. We see Juneteenth as a commemoration. We also honor one of Austin's outstanding citizens, Captain Louis White. Captain White was a pioneer in community policing, so we want to celebrate Juneteenth in the spirit of those who set the highest achievements and accomplishments in the city of Austin. Juneteenth should also continue because it is a remembrance of the importance of perseverance and the obstacles we have overcome and the important work that remains. For those who are unfamiliar with Juneteenth, it serves as a reminder of the importance of family and culture and a strong sense of identity as a group of people. The first task is to understand why our ancestors celebrated Juneteenth and how they used the occasion to create a spirit of unity and togetherness. The importance of storytelling and music is such an important aspect of African culture. The celebration can also serve as a time of healing and giving thanks to those who contributed so greatly to our survival as a people.
As I think about Juneteenth, first and foremost, I'm so excited to be a part of an institution that allows us to have candid conversations about the truth. Because to understand Juneteenth means being comfortable with the uncomfortable, which is July 4th symbolizes for many in America, just wasn't true for African Americans who were still enslaved here. Which then leads me to the next element of my role, racial healing. In my humble opinion, racial healing comes from acknowledging both past and present atrocities and injustices in America and in the world, even how lawful systems of oppression were complicit. But we can't just stay there. We can't just stay in the negative to make a change. We have to look towards transformation. And transformation comes from when we learn from it and stand together across differences to make ACC, the Austin community, and the world a better place, while appreciating the beauty and diversity we all bring to the table in doing so. That's what Juneteenth means to me, and that's what my vision is for the TRHT Center, to provide more and more opportunities for our students, faculty, and staff to feel valued and have spaces to make a difference by engaging in truth, racial healing, and transformation.
So today marks another year that the African American community gets to come out and celebrate what many may know as Emancipation Day, Freedom Day, but a lot of folks know it as Juneteenth, which is the oldest known celebration of honoring the ending of slavery in the United States of America. And this is an opportunity for African Americans to come out, be themselves, show their freedom, show their rights to liberties and the pursuit of happiness during this day of celebration. So I want to ask you, how has this day, understanding its history, played a part in your life growing up here in Texas?
My first celebration was, I would say, the mid 80s. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it was something that I actually looked forward to, like on a yearly basis. When is Juneteenth? I wonder how many people are going to be down there. And you always wondered how much fun it was going to be, what people were you going to see. It was a thing of, really, it was a thing of beauty, man. It was kind of like, for us, it was kind of like people celebrate how people celebrate a small Mardi Gras, if you will, at the time. You know what I mean? In this city, the march from the Capitol on down, from the march to the Capitol, to getting down to Rosewood Park, which is pretty much where a lot of folks stopped at. In fact, you got people that get down at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and start setting up. A lot of folks that start setting up the day before. It was a beautiful time for me.
Do you feel like that celebration still has its same significance or magnitude as it had back when you saw your first opportunity to be a part of that type of traditional celebration to where it is today?
The mentality of the people in the community was different back then versus now. You got a different type of people now, and they look at they look at they look at celebrations like we have as a kind of a thing of the past, and we're going to try to make it new. But the people that are trying to make it new are not bringing anybody with them. So in other words, they don't have the supporters that they had in the past. So it's not like it's a situation where people don't really care about it as much as they used to.
So how can we get, let's just say maybe the young adults, um, to understand that significance of what that ending of slavery meant for African Americans, to kind of bring that history, that culture up into the present day and for the future, so that this can be more of a ongoing tradition here in Austin, here in Texas, and throughout the United States.
More awareness. They need more awareness, like you was just saying. The history. Let them learn about their history. Let them understand what it means to be an American, what it means to be an African American, what it means to be Black in this city now, as opposed to what it was in '85, and understand that it's not. It needs to have that same umph to it,
Mhm.
because when it does not have that same umph to it, people overlook it. And we're in a situation right now where we're not trying to have people starting to, when people are starting to overlook what we have right now, it taints.
Now you are a student. So, and I know you're around a lot of younger students, you're around a lot of older students. So how do you feel that we can kind of bring that population together in an academic setting to kind of bring about that history, that culture, so that we can take it from outside of the academic walls back into the community, so that everybody can be involved in this process of elevating, the rights of African Americans, not only in present day, but again, move forward to the future.
So my home campus is Eastview campus because that's what I'm near to, and it's also closest to where the celebration takes place at. Right. Um, if anything, I would encourage the campus to start promoting Juneteenth. Like it's coming up, and I know they probably do it now, but just do it in a different in a more open light. So go out and promote it. Uh, do it like it's gonna be a show, man. Start, promote it, market it. You know, get people out there, give them little reminiscences of it. And if the up and up, how it's up and coming. Give them little bits and pieces of it, and then when it's there, you'll have more people to come out because now more people are kind of interested in what's going on. I mean, Black, white, Hispanic, and indifferent.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So do you feel that, it should be an effort to bring all races, all cultural backgrounds into this fold so that everybody can understand, you know, that day and time and where it leads up to where we are today?
I think bringing everybody into it, because you don't know how something is unless you're there and you see it with your own eyes, right? Once you see it with your own eyes and you see the significance of it and what it means to people, it becomes something, especially if you live in this community that the celebration occurred at, and they're kind of not refusing to move move the celebration. It's going to be in your community. You may as well get out and be a part of it. Look at it, uh take in the sights, figure out what it is, talk to people in the community, talk about how, learn how they feel about it. The people that, especially like the older generations, talk to those people, figure out what it is, see what it's like. You know what I'm saying? And then once you're out there, it's a thing. It becomes a thing for you. And I mean, you got some black folks that come here, and like I said, this is southern state. A lot of it didn't happen. You got people from all over now. You got people from a bunch of northern states, um, and so it's a new thing down here. But let they need to catch on to it too. Let them all catch on to it. You know, make it a history thing. It needs to be something that's taught, just like we do a Black History celebration or Cinco de Mayo or something like that. Make sure it's something that people know about. These are things that we need to know about in a school setting. Why can't we know about Juneteenth celebration in a school setting more in a more in a more enhanced capacity? You see what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be, we do this one day and people are trying to figure out what are they doing? Why are we, you know what I mean? They need to know when it is, the significance of it, the time that it happens, and why people are doing it. And then it'll give them a better understanding of why people enjoy, or why people are doing it.
All right, man. I appreciate your time. I thank you for your answers to these questions. And I know with you having some history, being from Austin and living in Texas, looking forward to what else that we can do to work together to kind of make sure that this stays something that's ongoing, not just one day out of the year, but something that can be celebrated again in the classroom and in the community as an ongoing process. So again, I thank you. Enjoy this Juneteenth day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. So I wanted to hear from you. What is your take on the history of Juneteenth and how that has been a significant factor in your life up until through your lifetime?
Okay, so um, for me, Juneteenth, it's an important day. Juneteenth is significant because that's the day that slaves were set free. Again, it's called Juneteenth because June the 19th was the actual date, and the word June and 19 are said in combination. So most African Americans refer to this day as Juneteenth. Um, that day, I feel, should be very significant to all African Americans. Um, there are many African Americans, though, who do not choose to celebrate that date anymore. Maybe because many of those people don't attend schools that recognize that date or are not socially active in a community that celebrates that date. And a lot of times, there are many parents that don't teach that information at home. So I think that if individuals are involved in churches or other social organizations or community organizations with inside of their communities, they should look at if those organizations or the community celebrates this date. Because I feel like as African Americans, we should be exposed more to more detailed information about Juneteenth. A lot of us think that, hey, it's just a day that we're going to go celebrate, and they know it as some type of African American culture, but they don't really know the detailed information in reference to why Juneteenth is actually celebrated and, the history surrounding it.
What ways do you feel that we can provide that information to, whether it's a younger generation or whether it may be someone who really doesn't understand the significance of that day? How can we provide that information to them so that they can understand the details, so that they can be a part of that, cultural remembrance or the celebration to kind of help build upon what has been given to African Americans?
That's a really good question. And I think that we need to broaden our horizons as far as, things that we do within our communities, social media, taking one step at a time. And I truly believe in each one, teach one. So each of us that take the time to teach another about the importance and the history of Juneteenth, I think that it will spread. And if we each take the time to teach one and then ask that one that we've taught to take the time to teach another, we can continue the history continue to expand and maybe continue to allow the younger generation to understand the importance of, again, not necessarily celebrating, but understanding the history and the meaning and why it should still be a relevant topic of conversation during the month of June. I think that if we reach out and have more organizations, whether they're school associated organizations or community activists or community organizations, inspire, educate within the community, I think that there's an opportunity to keep the history alive. And again, not just for celebration purposes, but for knowledge, because again, knowledge is power and it's key. And if we as African Americans don't take a stand and try to spread that knowledge, then it will die. And I think that it's important that we all play our role and our part and inform the youth so that they can do their part when they reach age and spread that information as well.
Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for your comments, and I want to say happy Juneteenth.
Well, thank you, and happy Juneteenth to you, Daryl, and I look forward to doing this again next year.
So I want to know from your perspective, what does Juneteenth and its history mean to you? And how do you feel like that has been a staple for the African American community in the past, present, and then moving forward into the future?
Juneteenth for me symbolizes freedom, as it should. Our ancestors fought to be free. Me being from Texas and knowing that Texas was the last state, I hold a lot of pride in that. But it also symbolizes where we need to go. Because even though that was 100+ years ago in 1865, when we were able to be free as African Americans, we still have a long road to go. And we can be inspired by the fight that our ancestors put in to get the physical freedom. And now we're still fighting to still be free in America. There's still so much going on every day. It's a new hashtag. Every day, someone else of color, specifically Black men, are being killed and targeted. And that kind of reminds us of the same things that we've already been through. It's now our turn to pick up where they left off and continue that fight for a true freedom. That's freedom of the mind. That's freedom from the prison system. That's freedom from anything that keeps us in bondage. So Juneteenth for me is a day that I'm very proud to celebrate. It's a day that I always hold near and dear to my heart. And like I said, most of my family is from Texas or Louisiana. So being from the South, it's a little special too. And knowing where just my grandpa and my grandmother and them grew up with the Jim Crow era and everything, and seeing what they went through versus the discrimination and the racism and sexism that I've experienced. We've come a long way, but we still got a long way to go. And I think that Juneteenth is that constant yearly reminder, like, what am I doing? What am I doing for my community? What am I doing to actually help us propel this freedom forward and to hold on to it and to gain more of it? So that's kind of how I do with Juneteenth. I like to celebrate. I like to see the parades and everything like that. And I hate that we're going to miss that this year. But most important, I like to strategize for the next year. What can I do to impact my community? What can I do to make sure that everybody really understands what we're still fighting for, and how we're free, but we're not free yet. And a lot of people don't like to admit that, but that's just, we have no choice right now when we're getting more Floyds, more Erics, more Trayvons, more Sandras. The list goes on and on and on, and it makes no sense. So we're still fighting just to be able to be Black in America. But our ancestors already won the fight. And so we just got to keep picking it up. We still got to run. So just like people went out and ran with Aubrey, we still got to run with this fight for freedom. And yeah, that's what Juneteenth means to me.
So I'm glad you picked up the point of running with this fight. How do you feel that today's generation can learn from the past and carry that torch into the future so that this can be a continuous celebration of what happened for us in the past, what we're building on now, to continue to gain that momentum about what the future may bring for African Americans?
Today's generation, the big thing is now we do have technology, but we're not using it in the right way, in my opinion. You can't record somebody being harmed and stand back and do nothing. we have to have more courage than that. You know, like the Wiz in the line. You got to have more courage than that, because what we did see from the past is that they had discipline, that they had a standard of excellence. When one got into it, they all jumped in. When one person, you know, was told that they couldn't sit where they wanted to sit on that bus, it was a boycott. Like, it wasn't, well, you know, that's all we got here is HEB. And I'm not, you know, saying anything against HEB, just using them as an example, because Texas, that's one of our big grocery chains. Well, if they did something to cause harm to our people, we got to figure out another way. I mean, that's it. We have to let people know business in it, that we're not going to continue to just be a hashtag, that we're not just going to run with Arbery or put on our hoodies and go buy a Skittle. That's not what we need to be doing at this point. And we have to learn that discipline, learn how to organize, because that's what technology has actually given us. We can talk to people from all across the world that look like us. We need to organize and build those relationships so that when we're seeing something like that happen, we're not innocent bystanders anymore. We're jumping in. We're letting people know that we mean business. When I say we're going to fight for freedom, whatever that means, by any means necessary. Malcolm said it best, that we're going to pick up. They left us a blueprint. They really did. They left us the blueprint, regardless of if you're more of a militant fan or, you know, you want the peace. We still all need to come together, no matter the religion, no matter the sex, no matter the age, any of that. None of that matters when we're all being targeted. And we have to learn to come together. We have to learn to set that type of stuff aside for the ultimate goal. And that is something that I feel like this generation really has to get a little bit more disciplined at doing. It's really cute to TikTok, be on Instagram, be on Twitter and things of that nature, but it's not cute when we're literally filming deaths and then everybody just becomes a hashtag. And before we can even really honor that person, we have another one. So we have to use the resources that we now have, coupled with that discipline and that blueprint that was already left for us. Pick it up wherever you get in, wherever you fit in. Pick it up wherever you fit in. If you know you share MLK's principles, then do that. If you're a Garvey Knight, then go over there and fight for that. If you're more Panther, then go fight for that. However you need to service your community, do so. Organize, build, be very community oriented. And I think that we can actually start propelling forward, truly, because we forgot that we're still a target. We forgot that we're still living in Jim Crow. Again, a lot of people don't want to admit that, but that's facts. We're still living in the Jim Crow era. So instead of us being comfortable with complacency, we're comfortable that maybe we're not seeing the strange fruit on the trees right now. Let's not let it get there, though, because the more comfort we get with sitting still, the more comfort they're going to get with attacking us and with normalizing our deaths. And we can't afford to have that again.
All right. Well, I thank you for your time and your comments, and happy Juneteenth.
Thank you. Happy Juneteenth, y'all.
Thank you.
Yo, so I'm Caleb, the Negro artist Rainey, and happy Juneteenth. I'm so happy that you all are celebrating this. This is important and monumental. The fact is, even though we know the world still has so much work to do, it's important for us to stop and really celebrate and appreciate the struggles that we've been through, the work and the progress that we've made. I know there's still so much work to do, but we find the fuel from our ancestors, from the people who have already been fighting this fight for us. And that's kind of what this is Juneteenth is a celebration of being free, one of our major movements. And yes, there's so much to what it means to be free, but steps have been taken. And from that, we continue to move forward. So I wanted to share this one poem with you all. I hope you all enjoy it. It's called Look, Black Boy. Look, black boy, over there. Other beast by the looks. The shade of a shadow means less than human. Dark indicates danger. Large features makes creatures, not children. Look, black boy, they are full of fragmented falsehoods. They will name you a color and call it confinement, an attempt to cage your consciousness and control your body. They will see beast instead of boy, But remember, being endangered is never the fault of the hunted or the haunted. There are rules, unwritten, but required for you to memorize for the sake of survival. You will tread water with stones in your pocket. They wish to sink you, yet you must keep swimming. Fair is for the privileged, but winning is for the dedicated. You may drown. You may die before the dawn, but still seek the sunrise. You are where dark meets day, and beauty blends into skin. As long as you are here, you hold the capacity for change. Like tomorrow. Look, black boy, you are alive. Thank you.
I had a conversation with a young woman from, North America here in the States, and she never heard of Juneteenth. Like, she doesn't understand like why people celebrate it, which is funny because she's a Black woman. But it just goes to show like how it's impacted suddenly so many white people, because so many white people are starting to celebrate as well. But it still hasn't touched those corners of America that are more isolated. I'm a double major in political science and criminal justice. And my whole point of getting there is to go back into the communities that I've grown up into in East Austin and South Austin, and give back to my people the leverage I feel like they absolutely deserve, being living in Austin as long as they have, and culturally like dispersed and constantly being redistricted and having their communities reshaped and gentrified, and to see how that's breaking away, like just the Black families, the Black communities, is heart-wrenching. And so not just at these Juneteenth celebrations are people, having a good time and enjoying the parades. We're having open conversation and discussions about issues within our community and how we can fix it, how we can put ourselves in platforms to sit at the table or create the table. It's so much that goes on at a Juneteenth event. It's like, it's on scales that most people can't even imagine, because all they see is Black people dressing up to the nine to celebrate a day, and it's layers to it, And then as a woman, I'm a descendant of a white mother and then a Black father, so I straddle the fence, and most people say, which way do you play? And I don't choose, I don't choose my white side. I don't choose my Black side. I'm just am what I am. But I have to say, being and growing up in my Black community has impacted me way more than the other side, because I can see how the other sides of the spectrum can create this superiority complex that really disenfranchises not just Black people, but people of all races. And it's like, I want to do my part in leveraging, my skin color or my knowledge or my wisdom and my experiences to give back to, not because I'm half Black, but giving back to the people that I feel like have just always had the inferiority complex projected onto them, and they succumb to it and don't realize that they voice really matter. And I'm like, if I can be that, mixed kid that can go out there and be a voice for them, then I will. Because I feel like from a lot of aspects, from the Black community, I look predominantly white. From the white community, I look like I'm mixed or I'm predominantly Black. So it's like, if that's how my people in my community see me, then I'm going to let them know I'm rooting for them no matter what. And I'm going to use my platform, be it my skin color or where I'm at and who I'm working for, to make sure that I'm pushing for them as I'm going up. If I'm going up, I'm pulling them with me in every turn that I possibly can. So that's as far as a woman, that's how Juneteenth has shaped me. Like, to not forget where I come from, where my father's family come from, you know, because my ancestors have fought for so long. They've had land stripped from them. They've had their community stripped from them. They've had their children's. And to this day, I lost my father and my brother to the madness, you know? So it's like, I don't just do it for them, but I do it for every person whose life has been taken unjustly and cannot be celebrated. For those voices that are unheard, that didn't have a voice to speak for them. For those people whose lives were taken shortly and they didn't get to live it. I take every moment of my life, not just for the sake of Juneteenth, but it really is like a alarm clock every year for me to let me know, to check in. Where am I at? What am I doing for my community? How am I helping? How am I giving back? How am I adding to the community versus just witnessing other people subtracting from the community? You know, it's a lot to go hand in hand. But with the Juneteenth aspect of how it brings us together and everything, we were digesting on this the other day, like literally how we talk about Juneteenth weeks and months before it's even to occur, because we know how it makes us feel. We enjoy seeing each other, celebrating each other, uplifting each other, waiting for those good conversations to be had. So the little ones that's in the midst of the conversations, they can hear what we're talking about, so we can plant the seed in their heads to be prepped and ready for the world that they're going to grow up into, and to be mentally ready to use their voices. Because most people, as far as like regarding my children, my children are very vocal, and they don't have a problem letting you know A, B, and C, or when you're out of line or when you're being disrespectful. That plays a big factor into Juneteenth, which most people don't realize either, because there's so many Black children and white children as well embracing the energy that's around, where they are entangled in all that wisdom and knowledge being said and spoken and being seen, seeing their people embracing other people. They're taking it all in. It's not just us as the adults being appreciative and learning from the experience of Juneteenth and every year and giving back to it. It's witnessing those fruits of our labor, our children experience the beauty of it too, and like what they're taking from it, what they're digesting from it. You know, it's so much about Juneteenth, how it shapes us, especially me. I can't speak for everybody else, but how it shapes me as a woman, as a person that's really involved in the community, about how I move and how I activate myself to put myself in situations to help people in my community, not just because of the skin color, but from the aspect of, I feel like people who are always belittled or devalued, you know, low income, low poverty scale, whatever it may be. And to know, as I'm touching those people in my community, from the shaping of how Juneteenth is constantly bringing me into interactions with other people, reaching out to the children as well, and like building that rapport with them and seeing them excited about Juneteenth. You know, it means so much, especially as much to the Black community, but it's a wheel turning where it's starting to matter to other people, other cultures, and to some cities and states too that are willing to pass Juneteenth as, you know, a state or a local holiday, where it's impacting people.
Is a day of reflection, knowing exactly how, it all started, being the last set of African Americans that were enslaved to be emancipated. And it's more of a reflection day for me, and also a day of celebration, as everyone would say. But more so a day of reflection to see how far we've come from the past to where we are now. And, just with everything also going on now with the Black Lives Matter, so it's like all of that just mixed in. It's really a day to reflect, and just be thankful and seek more, improvements for the lives of African Americans in the United States. We've not reached the destination we want to get to, but we're getting there, So I'm really happy with what is going on now, with everyone seeking change. People who already like live in this, like, thinking that being racist is fun, or it's the normal way to live, think that, oh, like, the Black community had this, like, they were emancipated, that's enough, like, they're free, like, there's nothing else we're doing. But really, there's a lot more that is not explicitly seen or stated, but like implicitly, and it's prevalent in the society now. And I believe that we need a lot more than Juneteenth. It just shows that as African Americans, like, we're not where we need to be. Like, there's room for a lot of improvement. So the fact that Juneteenth is a time or a day to celebrate, like, the emancipation of slaves in the Confederacy, um, it also shows that we need to push for more. The same way that was accomplished, we need to keep striving to achieve more and create, other times to celebrate for bigger movements and bigger improvements. So that's what I will be reflecting on June the 19th. A way I can, help impact the world, you know, um, the lives of others around me, to help make a change, basically new changes, like, not just settle with whatever we have right now, but to initiate more. It has to do with what I would say as my calling in life, because I believe like everyone has something to accomplish in one way or the other. So I believe that I am here to, give some form of light to the world, to enlighten people, to make them know that their old ways shouldn't always be the ways they continue in, whatever, because people who are ignorant to Black Lives Mattering, they weren't born that way. They were taught. So it's like you can unteach yourself those kind of things. Like, it's not humane to make someone feel less human because of the color of their skin or how they sound or anything. Like, it's not right at all. So, and fun, like, surprising, a lot of people don't know that despite everything going on social media, they think it's the normal. They think it's right. That's just because that's the normal they know, or the only right they know. But I feel like through every platform, social media, just being out there, I always try to, keep reading books, and I want to keep reading more books and able to write my own book to touch the lives of many out there, not to, like, make anyone feel guilty or anything, but to let them have a rethink and become better people. Knowing, as a Black male, if not for Juneteenth, I wouldn't be able to, like, go to ACC, and, like, every other school that we all, go to now. It's like, it feels liberating, to have such a thing to celebrate, and knowing that we have equal opportunity as, white people and every other person as of color. And it helps me also know that, oh, there's a chance at me achieving my goal, exactly, in academics and my dreams, and in anything really. And yeah, it just gives that liberating feel, and that, sense of dignity, I will put it. I don't, yeah, like it just helps me feel liberated, really, as a person.
I responded, I was like, okay, well, I don't know if I know enough to talk about this, right? And I was like, okay, I don't know exactly how this has affected me. But we don't really think through, oh, okay, I wouldn't have been here if this didn't happen, you know, or um, exactly, yes, I wouldn't have been here if this didn't happen. But until sometimes someone has to remind us, or you yourself have to reflect and sit down and think about these things. So, you know, as I said, before, like it takes reflection. It takes reflection on history. Juneteenth being like, the commemoration of the oldest commemoration of the ending of slavery is huge. And I don't know how many people, especially international students, right, know about Juneteenth. Because I only really know like the definition and um the reason behind Juneteenth. But I don't think a lot of international students know that as well. So um it's definitely a huge, what I call it, event or annual celebration, that I think many international students don't know about, but it also affects them positively in the sense that, okay, if we didn't have, the ending of slavery, it wouldn't be possible, at least, for international students to have, especially international students of color, to have the opportunity to, attend, a wonderful school like ACC, and, get all the benefits like scholarships, even like, you know, being in different positions of leadership. Like I was student body president. So it's like we don't think through these things while we're going through, you know, whatever we're going through. And sometimes people do, and that's a good thing. But I feel like so many times we don't. And it's just like so many things in life where we we don't realize what happened, or we don't realize how everything that happened before, let's say for example today, has affected us, until we sit down and say, okay, huh, that's interesting. If this didn't happen, I wouldn't be here. So I just think that it's wonderful that we celebrate this every year. And I also think that it's something that we need to be more aware of, especially international students.
Coming into college at ACC, I started getting more involved with the community, and in realizing that I had a community behind me. And that with this community, it celebrated me. It didn't just celebrate me being Black or me being queer or me, or just me in like individual boxes being categorized, but it celebrated me as a whole and uplifted and amplified my voice. And so, with it being Pride Month on top of Juneteenth, I get to rock my afro and wear my pride flag. So that's amazing. And it goes to show like these intersections that we do have in our community need to be recognized. It is beautiful to be unique. It's beautiful to have these intersections in your identity. And it's beautiful. Like when I say I'm an Afro queer student, I just feel it in my spirit and I just love it because I get to talk about the history of the Black and brown people who before me, before my mother and father, before my grandmother, my great grandmother, who were LGBTQ or queer, in a time where it was just oblivious to people that that intersection even existed. One of my favorite authors, James Baldwin, is one of my biggest idols. I will always forever love him, brag about him, everything. He is the reason why I stepped into celebrating my queerness and my Blackness, because he spoke his truth on any platform, no matter the consequence, no matter the backlash. He spoke his truth, and he always made it known, I'm a Black queer man, and this is my mission, this is my value. And if you can't see it, then I'm sorry, but I'm gonna keep pushing. And with that, he created a momentum within me to just continue celebrating it. And so during this month, when I wear my afro and cape myself with my rainbow flag, not only do I get to show the brownness and beauty in my melanin, but I also get to show like these rainbows that are striped on me on this flag not only represent my freedom and not only represent the beauty of my community, but it also gives a spotlight to, as I said before, like the struggles and the challenges and obstacles that queer people and Black people have faced, or Black and queer people, or queer people of color, because we've made phenomenal strides, especially given with Juneteenth coming up. You have people doing things that we would have never thought would happen. Twitter and Square are making a company holiday for Juneteenth. Okay, Hulu is making a day of observance for Juneteenth, and it's just like these things that are happening that are highlighting, not highlighting, but spotlighting the Black community, the queer community, even even in this time. It's just beautiful because we're being recognized, we're being celebrated, and I would say in the first time in a long time, we are actually getting the justice and change that we deserve. It reminds us that the fabric, in many cases, the foundation of the United States was built on the institution of slavery. In this system, people, as we know, were bought, sold, and moved as property, and their children was born into slavery, and that created generational strife. And Juneteenth represents how freedom and justice in the United States has always been delayed for Black people. However, it celebrates the abolition of slavery in the United States, and the sacrifice made by Black people to achieve freedom. And with Juneteenth, for me, I grew up in a multicultural household. My mother, she's a native of Trinidad and Tobago. My father, he comes from Mobile, Alabama. So having both of those cultures immersed into my life, um, I can't even describe the experience of waking up to gumbo one day and jerk chicken the next. Or my dad cooking jambalaya one day and my mother cooking curry chicken. And I think for me, the beauty of Juneteenth, not only is it cultural, but it's social and it's political, because we look at the climate that we are in currently, and we do recognize, yes, there has been unjust and horrendous tragedies. Looking at George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and even some of our youth, like Brad Alea, Xavier Fensroy, and various other youth who have been brutalized or attacked by police. And so having these conversations about Juneteenth, not only do we have to unpack what it means now, in a sense of like, how do we address and approach, institutions and systems of racism, and xenophobia, and try to basically eradicate them. But Juneteenth also puts a spotlight on the beautiful things in the Black community, the food, the culture, the music, it's just, and even the smallest things have the biggest impact, from the way we wear our hair, the way we talk, the way we dance, the way we move, the way it just being Black is a beautiful thing, and Juneteenth highlights that. And we've seen various momentums to where Black people and even Black youth have made that impact. For example, Chase Moore, he's an activist in the Austin community, and he worked to pass an African American Studies legislative this year, actually, to implement an African American focused curriculum into schools across Texas. And so that is why we celebrate Juneteenth. And yes, we have to reflect on our struggles and our strives, and we have to reflect on the challenges and obstacles that we had to go through to be here, to have this very conversation. Because if Juneteenth never happened, where would we be? And that's a good question. Would we still be enslaved? Would we still have to fight tooth and nail? Not the same as it is now, but back then, would we still have to fight tooth and nail to get spaces created for us? Because without Juneteenth, I would say I believe that we wouldn't be able to own our own businesses. We wouldn't be able to celebrate our own holidays in our homes. We wouldn't be able to have the peace and the comfortability that we do have in our households today. So with having Juneteenth, since Juneteenth happened, it just is a constant reminder that we are here, and that we are supposed to be celebrated. And even with Black History Month, we don't really have that many days in the year to actually celebrate us and our existence and our resistance actually in creating that change and implementing that change for us and future generations. And so Juneteenth for me has always been about food, if I'm being honest. and I can talk about food all day because I just love how when with Juneteenth there is this multicultural aspect of food. I mean, you have jambalaya, you have curry, you have food from different people. You have the Afro Latino and Latinx culture. You have the Brazilian culture. You have cultures that have that lineage of Black and African, and their food is phenomenal. Okay. And so it's just like Juneteenth not is only a celebration of who we are and where we came from, but about what we've created, the innovations, the food, the dances, the music, and just celebrating those very roots. And yeah.
We wanted to get your input on that impact from a past perspective to a present perspective and what they may look like in the future. So we wanted you to share, what are your thoughts about this day of Juneteenth, starting back, back in 1863 when the slaves were freed, and then in 1865 they found out about that day of emancipation being proclamated to them to kind of pursue that life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and how that led us to where we are today. Give us some of your thoughts about Juneteenth and its significance.
Well, I was introduced to this date as a kid, as a child, when I was coming up, and I came up in East Texas in Marshall, which is a community where there was a large number of Black people, African American people. At that time, we were called Negroes. We could refer to ourselves as Negroes, and so and everybody, that was a preferred term, and so it was a holiday that I grew up with. In my hometown, there was a big production company. That was the railroad headquarters. It's called the Texas and Pacific. We call it the T&P. And they used to, which was controlled by whites, and they supported the date too. And so it was a date that it was almost as hallowed by us as Christmas, because in the summer, school would be out, and the first major date that we had, we would play, they play baseball, have events, and entertain ourselves in our culture. Black people could do what they. I grew up that way. Given the fact there were a lot of Black folks there anyway, and we had our churches, we did a lot of things anyway. But on the 19th, and it was called the 19th of June, not Juneteenth. It was called the 19th of June. We knew that was going to be a date of great expectations and great activity. And so that's what it was. And it was like that until integration. And when integration came, a lot of Black people wanted to leave a lot of the segregated stuff behind. And so in some areas, they stopped celebrating it. But in Texas, because Texas was the state where the 19th of June is most applicable, in my neck of the woods, we celebrated it all the way up until I went to college, and that was in '59. And so it's a great day, and it's a reverence. It's a day of reverence. It's a day that we thank God for what we had been granted. That is that freedom and opportunity. And we had some people in our community who were not Negroes or who were not Black. I mean, white people who supported with us. So it wasn't a period of time when people were, mad at each other, because if you work with some people, they would They would you didn't have to work that day, usually, especially if it was on a Saturday. They would contribute to whatever it was that we were going to do, and so we looked at it as a great event. And one of the biggest events was in Texas, was in a place called Comanche Crossing. I don't know. I know people don't know much about it because I asked some people about it earlier in this year, up near Waco. It was a place, an island-like place where they would. It was a religious. They would have. I was on this island that day. They would have a lot of events. So, and my mother used to, before she passed away, and she was in her 70s, she would travel from Marshall, Texas, which is about 200 miles, from Marshall up to this place near Waco in Mahair, and she would go to celebrate because they'd have all kind of events. They'd have church events, and they would have dances, baseball games, all kind of things. So it was a wonderful time, and you know, I think it's misconstrued the way people interpret it, because we didn't look on it like I think it's being observed today. We looked upon it as our day to do what we wanted, and we didn't demand anybody to participate with us. If you didn't want to participate, you didn't have to. But people saw the value of it because it gave us that opportunity to be celebratory, and so it's a great day. It's a great day.
So you bring up a good point. You said back, when you were growing up and you all were having this day of reverence, there was not a strong demand. It was something that was an honor to be a part of, because as we talked about, what was given, I shouldn't say given, but what was the opportunity for Black folks or African Americans to have after they've been through so much oppression and suppression.
Right.
So looking at it from that point of view back then to where it is now, how can we get, younger folk, even some that are of, middle age, and even older folks, to understand that importance of that reverence, that honor, that we can kind of get back to that way of thinking to show that appreciation, and not to what it may be now, so much of a celebration, but again,
I think
reverence and honor and things of that sort.
I think that can be accomplished with information, with education. I listen to some people talk about the date, and they have the microphone because they may be in a position to tell somebody what it is, but it's like reading it from a dictionary. People who lived it, I mean, that was a cultural thing that was espoused because of the way people, the way you say it with emotion. You understood what it was about. And when you teach, when you expose people to that kind of, if you went to East Texas, where most Black people in this state live in the eastern part of the state. So that. Now Houston is the eastern part of the state. Dallas is the eastern part of the state. So it's Fort Worth. Waco is beginning to get a little bit in the central part of the state. In Austin, there's not a whole lot of Black people. So wherever you had a whole lot of Black people who went through slavery and who realized that their grandparents or some of their relatives were freed on that day, those people who were exposed to that, they realized how valuable it was, and so they carried that holiday with them. And so the younger people became wrapped up in it because they had somebody in their family or somebody who they respected. It didn't have to be your relative. It could be somebody in the community, but people look forward for that event. And so they made it happen. They didn't need anybody else to make it happen. It's like your birthday. You don't need anybody to help you celebrate your birthday. You know when it is, so you celebrate it. Now, what happened is when we begin to leave the eastern part of the state and leave the rural and begin to move to the urban areas, we took on the ideas of the urban. See, 9th of June is not an urban holiday. It's a holiday where people, even though it can be, the date is, but it was with people who worked in agriculture, because you did things that were out in like in the park. You did things, but see, you move to the city, you don't have a lot of that exposure like that way, and as a result, young people, Black people in particular, African American people, and Negroes today, they don't practice certain things all year. so they don't it may not be an important thing for them. The most important date may be an urban holiday. It's either a religious holiday like Christmas. But now when you live in the rural and the weather was nice in the summer, people talk about the food you would eat and just getting together with people. And you didn't have a lot of things to take away your interest, like your TV today and movies and driving cars. And people got together then. They got together because they wanted to be together and they enjoyed that process of being together. But see, now you can tune somebody out with the new hot technology. You can, you don't have to you can be with somebody and not even be talking to them because you can talk to somebody else somewhere else. And so I think that's what has gone away. I think the way to preserve it is to teach it or have somebody who remembers that. There are not a whole lot of people to the left who maybe remember that period I'm talking about. That's the way I'm talking about it. So, and we used to try to do it on the campus, but you need an older person to help you. I think that feel it, that know what it is, not because they read it somewhere. See, we do things now because we think it's fashionable to do it. It's what we ought to do. I notice they say we don't forget we got to celebrate Juneteenth. Well, you got to tell me to celebrate. You don't have to tell me what I need to celebrate if it's something that I love. You got to tell me to celebrate my birthday. I know what my birthday is. I know when it's coming. And I know what I'm going to do about it. I know when Christmas is coming. I love it. So you do it with Nations of June. But now we've gotten to a place where we've absorbed some holidays that are not necessarily, we don't know what they are either. But being in an environment that says you want to celebrate this day, and it becomes a date to celebrate because some other group want to do it, and you want to be. And if you don't understand, I think ignorance is our biggest problem. Ignorance is lack of knowledge. If you don't know what this day means, then you may not want to celebrate it. And see, in Austin, in 1973, we brought back. I was a part of the group with a guy named Don Nesby, who was a constable. We helped put together the first Nations of June that had been done for a long time. I was a parade marshal. I got pictures of it in my office. I got a video of it. And we brought it back to Austin because people in Austin had stopped celebrating it. And it began to pick back up. And we helped to form the parade. And now I don't think we're going to have, in the last 3 or 4 years, the Nations of June in Austin, Texas has died because it has become something else for a lot of people. Now they want to charge you to be in the parade. You can't go to the park. You can do what you want to do. And so it has moved to those smaller rural areas. It has moved to places like Bastrop. They try and take it to Pflugerville, but Bastrop is a place where you have a lot of older black people to remember. And so it has changed. I don't know. It's kind of sad to see it change, but I know everything may have to pass on. But it takes knowledge to know what you celebrating. If you don't know what you're celebrating, you just be out there doing something because you see somebody else out there.
Professor Hayes, before we leave, I want to ask you one more question. You talk about knowledge. You talk about how that can continue to bridge that gap to, preserve, this honor that has been, been brought about as a tradition for, years upon years upon years. So, in your thoughts and your opinion, how do, we bring about that knowledge to the younger generation that's coming behind us so that they can understand the significance of that day and how to preserve it going into the futures that we have here in this United States of America?
I salute Austin Community College because of that. Because ever since I've been at Austin Community College, and I've been there since it opened, they have respected and given African American people the opportunity to be a part of that school, and we still are. The African American Cultural Center is a living example because that's what we want to exhibit every day. We want to exhibit that culture. Our children, black children, African American children, they're not taught their culture. And so if we want to promote something, we need to promote that positiveness of it. And that's what we try to do with the Cultural Center. That's what I applaud about what y'all are doing in this presentation. and there's so much to be garnered. There's so much to be learned, and it's so much fun that when other people who are not African or of the same ethnicity or the same group, when they see what we're doing, they understand the value of it, and they want to participate too. So if we want to promote it, we need to understand it, and understand that you have to live it, or you have to be taught it, and it's not being taught. And my simple answer would be, and it don't have to all be taught in school. It can be taught in the churches. The churches don't do much about it anymore. I'm about the black churches, and families don't do what they used to do. There are three institutions that we need to be dealing with. Those are the church, the family first, the church, and the schools. And you can look at those three institutions, and you can see how they relate to the 19th of June, and you can get a pretty idea how they're going to pass it on to their children. Because that's the way you promote or perpetuate something, is that you keep pushing it. You do it, and when you do it, you grow up in that environment, and when you become a person of ability to do it on your own, you remember what your parents did, and you remember what your church did, you remember what your school did. Well, the schools are gone. Elementary schools, black schools, the high schools are gone. The families are almost disintegrated because of a lot of things that we can talk about at another point. And churches, they're almost gone. If you can count the number of churches, compared to where we used to be back, say, 25 years ago, to the way the black churches are in East Austin today, and you can kind of get an idea. And if you don't have that source to keep perpetuate those things and keep them going, it'll just run out, because it's just normal. It's a natural. Because if you don't keep doing something like that, that something else will take its place.
That's a great point. Very great point. And again, Professor Hayes, we thank you for your time. You are a valued pillar in the community, have been so for a long time. And I want to appreciate you and say thank you again for sharing your thoughts. Look forward to having this conversation with you again here soon. And you stay safe out here, and we'll be chatting soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.